YouTube, what is going on, guys? It is Friday. It is Friday Night Live, and boy, do we have a show today. Welcome. Looks like we already have a packed house. I'm going to try to get into the topic of discussion tonight as fast as we can, but I still want to make sure we get some time to let some folks come in. I do have a couple of little announcements I want to get to. Let me just say what's up to some folks that are already here. We got Comic Toby, what's going on? Pedro, Vinny, David, Como, Louis Logics, Tricky, Adam, Peter, lots of good people already here. Thank you guys for being early birds to the show. If this is your first time checking out the channel, of course, if you aren't subscribed, please take some time to do so, guys. Another milestone hit this week. We hit 7,500 subscribers, 7,500 subscribers. Man, oh man. Thank you all so much. So much. This last year and a half especially has been just a crazy, amazing ride. I feel I might sneeze here in a minute. But it just really has. And this channel has grown so much thanks to all of you. And I want to say a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart. I always say I'm not slowing down anytime soon. This is something that I plan on doing long term. Right now, I'm producing content for you all 7 days a week. I drop a video every single day of the week. And I also do my Friday Night Live shows every Friday. And then, we do the Comic Book Canon show on the Comic Book Canon YouTube every Friday as well. It's a lot of work and it's grueling, but I absolutely love it. I love being here to be able to give back to you guys and be a part of this two-way relationship in this community building, because that's what it is to me. So I want to say thank you all again. I said this in the recent past. Once we hit 8,000 subscribers, I will be officially announcing my 10K giveaway, and I'll be setting up the more and more of the prizes then. Along the way, I'll be announcing more of the prizes and more of the sponsors that are going to be involved with adding to the prize pot of that, and what you guys are going to have to do. It's not going to be much at all. It's not going to be much at all to be able to enter. Steve, what's going on, Steve? Jamie, Serge, X11, what's going on? Scott, thanks for not wearing your Cubs hat. Adam, what is going on, people? All right, so where was I? Yeah, so a big thank you there. I really appreciate all of you so much. Fapped in America, what's good? That's what's up. All right, so I know, again, okay, big news. CGC gets basically bought out and acquired by Blackstone. All right. When I heard the news yesterday, like all of you, I wanted to come do a video or do a live like right away. But I said, you know what? Everyone else is going to be talking about it. It's okay if I come a day late, because it's going to allow people to sit and marinate with it for a minute. And I actually did a lot of homework to come at you guys today to have a really deep, fleshed out perspective on the matter. I'm not just going to hit you with emotions. We're going to talk fact. All right. But still, before we do that, I want to say, first off, Comic Book Canon, right? Every Friday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, when we're done here, Comic Book Canon, our YouTube link is below. We're going to have an awesome show tonight with special guests, Tom Tormey, Cosmic Comic History. He's going to be joining us as our special co-host. If you all are not subscribed to Comic Book Canon, takes the time to do so. Click that link. We're closing in on 1,000 subscribers over there. We're going to be announcing our 1,000 subscriber contest really soon as well. Let me talk about a couple contests that I have coming up. At the end of July, I'm going to be giving a Last Ronin #3 away to my YouTube members. All right, I might throw a buck or two in there with this. All right, so you're going to be winning that just by being a member of the channel. If you are interested in becoming a member of the channel, it's only $1.99 a month. If you click that join button below to get more information and to sign up, you get early access to some of my content, member only exclusive access to comments that I release, like tips of the day. You also get entered into my special contests as well. You get extra entries into my big YouTube contest. So for my 10K contest, you'll get an extra entry into that just by being a member. You also get cool badges and get to use really cool, awesome superhero emojis in the live streams and on my videos and so forth. So really cool stuff. It's only $1.99 a month. It really helps support the channel. All right. Now, big shout out to my Patreon members. My Patreon members, we have a couple contests coming up. And if you guys are interested in becoming a Patreon member of the channel, that's only $3.99 a month, the cost of a new book. Some new books, a lot of them are $4.99 now. But at the end of July, we're going to be having a Patreon-only contest as well. Now, remember what I said. There's 2 prizes possibilities. All right. If we hit 40 Patreon members at the end of the month, I will be giving away this beautiful Tales to Astonish number 91 in a White Pages 8.0. Second appearance of Abomination, first cover appearance. This is absolutely on fire right now. On fire. We did get official confirmation. Abomination. That was Abomination in the Shang-Chi trailer. All right, Adam. Thank you so much, Adam, for becoming a YouTube member. I am truly appreciative of your support. Thank you so much. Miguel, what's going on, Miguel? Let's see, Logic. So it's Ghost Jump. What's going on, Ghost Jump? All right, if we don't hit 40 Patreon members, it's okay. We're still going to have a contest, but this is just going to be put on the back burner until the next one. If we don't hit 40, I'll still be giving away this awesome Daredevil 181, Death of Elektra. Beauty right here. I still think Elektra is way undervalued in my humble opinion. And I'll probably throw in a couple extra books with this as well. So no matter what, my Patreon members will be entered into a contest at the end of the month, regardless of the prizes. We're only I think we're like 7 or 8 away from 40 right now. So it's doable. Those links are below as well. Okay. Let's see. What else? I think that's about it. I think from there, I want to get into this topic of discussion, guys. Okay. Again, do check out all the awesome links below, including all the, affiliates of the channel. Big shout out to A1 Comics. Their information is below. And of course, Comic Book Cannon, because we have an awesome show for you guys tonight. Moonlit, what's going on? Joshua, Remy. All right, everyone. Are we ready to do this? Oh, one last thing. Journos Comics official merch. I'm rocking the purple. The long sleeve. I'm loving it with the black circle and the white logo. That link is below as well, everyone. Buying merch helps support the channel, and you get to rock some super awesome gear. I actually have some new designs in the works right now. I think a lot of you, especially friends of the channel that watch consistently, you all are going to be extremely excited about some of the new merch that's going to be on its way. I gave a little Easter egg there. All right. Let's get to this topic of discussion, everyone. CGC Blackstone acquired majority of the company. Now, majority shareholder is 51%. We don't know the details to, what percentage they own at this point, but it's at least 51%. It could be 75. It could be 95. We also know that Jay-Z and Rock Nation, they're feeding in the mix. I was saying, are we gonna get Jay-Z like Black Album custom CGC labels now or something like that? Anyways, so this Gotham Knight, what's going on? This news dropped yesterday. I'm sure everyone here has heard something. I am on Instagram. I'm in the Facebook forums, and I'm hearing it. I am hearing it. Everyone is already going absolutely nuts to this news. All right. A lot of emotion involved. And that's understandable. I see a lot of doom and gloom. More than anything, though, a ton of doom and gloom. This is what we're going to do, okay? I have a whole outline of how we're going to break this down, okay? We're going to pinpoint talking points. I'm going to express my opinion on the matter, and then I want to come back to comments and get your guys' feelings on it, your input, your feedback, where your thoughts are on this acquisition, okay? So, with that being said, I am going to pull up I'm not going to bring it on screen. It's just a guide for me to adhere to while I am, discussing this piece with you all. Okay. What's going on, Comic Noob? All right, let's bring this up. Okay. Give me one moment here. I'm going to try to pay attention to the chat as we're going along, but I promise you all, before the end of the stream, I will get to questions, comments, your feelings on this topic. I think this is probably one of the most important topics that I've discussed on a Friday Night Live. I will say so. All right, let us go into this. Okay, so here's the thing. So Blackstone acquiring majority shares of Certified Collectibles Group. Obviously, CGC is just a branch within their bigger umbrella of the company. Let me point out right now, before I even dive into this, I have been talking for at least 2 years about how CGC needs to evolve. A lot of you that watched my channel that heard me talk about CGC in the past, I have been stating that CGC needs to make some changes because they cannot continue on the path that they are on if they want to continue to be the leader in the grading industry. I've said countless times, the grading industry that's only 21 years old is still essentially in its infancy. All right. And CBCS has done a lot, especially over the last 5 years, to evolve to try to get a bigger slice, a bigger piece of that market share, right? CGC has had a lot of issues going on, at least, especially in this last year or so. Quality control issue, turnaround times, raising their prices at like what I felt was a bad time. I thought it was bad timing, regardless if you think the price raises were fair. Alienating your members, getting rid of your member discount. I know for a fact that a lot of people are already taking business from CGC to CBCS over the last year because of all of these things. And I continue to be vocal about how CGC needs to start looking at long-term success. Long-term success. They need to stop worrying about instantaneous profits, focusing on the profits of today and focus on the growth and the success of tomorrow. All right. So I wanted to point that out. Now let's get into what we know about this acquisition. All right. Now I'm going to read from the notes that I have here. All right. And this is coming directly from CGC and Blackstone themselves. All right, here we go. What we know about the acquisition, these are the facts. Blackstone will seek to accelerate, at least let me actually back up. These are the facts according to the players involved. All right. Blackstone will seek to accelerate CCG's growth, enabling the company to invest significantly in its current and planned services, adding and training new employees, expanding its geographic and product reach, acquiring new technologies, and developing its digital presence. Okay. CC Melvin Ike, principal at Blackstone, said this, quote, "As thematic investors, we look for exceptional entrepreneurial teams succeeding in growing markets, and CCG is a great example. We have been closely following the rise of the global physical and digital collectibles industry for several years, and we were drawn to CCG because of their leadership role in the categories that they serve and Blackstone's ability to grow the platform through both organic and inorganic initiatives. We look forward to working together to help the company continue and even accelerate its impressive growth trajectory. Okay, so let's pause there. What does that mean? What does that mean? Okay, they're basically saying these are the goals that we want to happen from this partnership, from this acquisition. They have been watching the collectibles market. So for a huge investors group like Blackstone, now keep in mind, Blackstone has like over $600 billion, not million, billion. They have over $600 billion in assets. All right. Their share that they acquired, the majority share that they acquired, was for $500 million. So that's still small compared to the assets that Blackstone already owns. You know, they got Blackstone mortgage. They got Blackstone, the hedge fund. There's so much going on with them, and they have $600 billion in assets. So a $500 million acquisition is kind of a small percentage of that still. But what do they see? What do they see here? They understand that there's something going on in the collectibles market right now. So right there, for anybody that's in the hobby and within the collectibles market, that should be a positive thing for you to acknowledge. All right. Let me move on here. They also believe in what CGC has been doing as the leader in the grading industry. We understand that the service and product that they provide brings more revenue and more equity to the collectibles market. All right. And we could clearly see when we look at the 9.8 market alone, and how the 9.8 market in and of itself is, bringing in thousands and thousands of more dollars per book. You take a CGC 9.8 Hulk 181 that's selling for probably about $45K right now, where you take in a high grade raw where you might be able to sell it for maybe 15 to 18,000 right now. That's so much more revenue and equity that you're bringing into the collectibles market that is going to result in millions and millions more dollars every year brought into the market, right? Blackstone recognizes that this is the value that CGC and parent company CCG have. All right. Further going on to what we know about this acquisition, CCG's leadership team will remain in place, combining their experience and expertise with Blackstone's extensive resources. So what does this mean? What does this mean? This means that although Blackstone basically owns the majority of the business and they get to make the decisions, they're allowing the current executive and leadership team to stay in place and hopefully keep doing the same thing that's brought them success in the past. I relate this similar to Disney and Marvel Studios. All right. When Disney, not even Marvel Studios, but Lucasfilms as well. All right. When Disney acquired Marvel Studios, Disney knew that Kevin Feige was the man. Disney allows their acquisitions to continue to have that type of autonomy, right? You've even seen it with Lucasfilms, although with Kathleen Kennedy, changes are being made now. It didn't work out how they planned, but you see it with Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios. Kevin Feige's running the ship. Kevin Feige is running the ship. Disney is the backer. They bring in the assets and the resources and the funds to make them as big and successful as they are. But Kevin Feige and his team are the men behind the masks doing the work. All right, making the engine run as well as it is. So expect that to be the case with this acquisition with CGC and CCG from Blackstone. Now, Blackstone does have a record of doing this with other acquisitions and with other assets that they've acquired in the past, but we're going to get into that. Okay, we are going to get into that. So now let's talk a little about who is Blackstone. Okay, because this is very important, because I think a lot of this, you know, a lot of people, collectors, and I always say this, I really, and I hope I'm not, don't, you know, I don't want anybody taking this personally, but I've said this before, and it's a fact. There are too many people in this hobby. There are too many people in this hobby, for one, that react with emotion, and that two, don't know what they're talking about, right? And they tend to talk about the market or finance or economics and all these things, and I don't really feel they have a good understanding about what they're talking about. And I think a lot of that has transpired over the last 24 hours from the announcement of this acquisition about who Blackstone is and what their intentions are. Let me drink some water here. So we're going to ask that question. Who is Blackstone? Blackstone is one of the world's leading investment firms and seeks to create positive economic impact and long-term value for investors, the companies they invest in, and the communities in which they work. Blackstone does this by using extraordinary people and flexible capital to help companies solve problems. Blackstone's $649 billion in assets under management include investment vehicles focused on private equity, real estate, public debt and equity, life sciences, growth equity, opportunistic, non-investment grade credit, real assets, secondary funds, all on a global basis. So what does that tell you is what they do? First off, Blackstone isn't just a hedge fund. All right. They have a department, so to say, that focuses on the growth of the hedge fund market. But they're also in so many different things, from real estate to sciences to debt, you know, to the growth equity, which is like, you know, you could pair that up with the collectibles market, right? Credit, real assets, all these things show that their intent is to grow their investments. All right. It's not just one thing. They're understanding that we can diversify as a company. We can diversify ourselves and get involved in multiple different industries, because we have the resources and the tools to recognize who is the leader in each industry and how can we jump in and provide our resources to allow for them to do what they do on a much larger scale that, yes, essentially in the end is making us profits. For anyone that understands business, that's not a bad thing, because a business needs to be successful by doing one thing and one thing only: being profitable. So those people that think that just because there's intent to maximize profits when it comes to any type of business or an acquisition, if you think that's a wrong, that's wrong, and that means doom and gloom and chaos, I humbly ask you to try to educate yourself to basic economics in business. Even businesses that are grain businesses, that are, you know, even nonprofits need to have success being profitable on their own accord. In terms of what that means, well, how are they profitable? Possibly by fundraising, right? They need to raise funds. They also get grants from governments, right? But how do you get grants from governments? You have to have a business in a system that is shown to work, and it's proven to work for grant money to say, or for governments and agencies and entities to say, we want to give you $1.5 million in grant money to help your nonprofit because you're providing a service or you're providing a product that is working, right? Any type of smart investor, especially an investment firm that has over $600 billion in assets, isn't just going to pump and dump like a lot of people in this hobby love to use. They're not going to pump their assets and their resources into a $500 million of resources into an entity because they want to pump and dump, meaning they're going to pump 500 million in, and then they're going to get a quick fix of like another 100 million back, and then they're going to let CGC and CCG like fall to the wayside. It doesn't work like that. Any smart company is in it for the long term. But let me continue on before I go down that rabbit hole, okay? So we talked a little bit about, what the acquisition means, what we know about it. We talked a little bit about Blackstone. Now, what does this mean for CGC? Okay, one, it means resources. Number one, resources. And what does that mean? And I'm going to go back to this statement that they made. Enabling the company to invest significantly, the company being CCG, enabling the company to invest significantly in its current and planned services, adding and training new employees, expanding its geographic and product reach, acquiring new technologies, and developing its digital presence. Now I'm going to stop there. And I'm going to ask the chat a question. How many people see this as a bad thing or a good thing? If you think it's a good thing, say yes in the comments below. If you think it's a bad, or say good. Actually, let's do this. If you think it's a good thing, say good in the comments below. If you think it's a bad thing, say bad. Not the acquisition, this one talking point. Okay? What this means for CGC, more resources, and those resources being enabling the company to invest significantly in the current and planned services, adding and training new employees, right? Expanding its geographic and product reach, right? Acquiring new technologies and developing its digital presence. Those 5 things. If CGC was to build itself on those 5 things, good or bad, don't even think about acquisition. Don't even think about Blackstone. We're not talking about any of that. CGC having more assets to develop those 5 things, good or bad. Resources are good, says FAP in America. Good, great, absolutely. Absolutely. This is for anybody complaining. Mark, I know it's not that binary, but that's why I'm breaking it down. We're not focused on the macro situation here. I'm going micro right here on this situation to add context. We're going to dive deeper into this, okay? This point right here. Resources are good. Resources are absolutely good. That's why I said put aside the acquisition, put aside your feelings on Blackstone or on anything for the moment, okay? Anybody complaining about CGC's turnaround time, quality control, all those things. Oh, they're focusing too much on signature series signings and we're getting left by the wayside. And I'm tired of my books coming back upside down. A DC book getting a Marvel label, the wrong book, all these things, right? More resources are good. Okay. So on the surface, these 3 things that they're saying is their focus is a good thing. All right. But we're going to move on, and we're going to dive deeper into this. Okay. All right. What else does this mean for CGC? We got resources, right? Well, another thing is autonomy and control. As I previously stated, CGC's leadership team still holds a large minority share in the company, which is a fact, and they will still have executive management say over the company. All right, so that's good. If you know nothing else about the acquisition, if you know nothing else about Blackstone, them stating that CGC and CCG's leadership team is going to stay intact and be the oversight committee still. I think most of us probably see that as good because it is CGC that's been doing CGC for 20 plus years now, right? Although we may not agree with everything that they do, they are the professionals, right? It's just like you didn't want AT&T coming in and buying out DC and Warner Brothers and not knowing a damn thing about comic books and having the wrong people in place as executives to oversee the stuff. We saw how that happened and how that worked for AT&T, right? It didn't work well. So if AT&T would have came in and put comic book people in charge of comic books, it may have turned out differently. And I think they're realizing that now and things are changing. But we're not talking about AT&T and DC here. All right, Blackstone also has a track record of allowing their acquired entities to do what they do best. All right, if you look at their track record and look at the companies that they acquired, whether it's, in the mortgage industry, in the credit industry, they basically fund, they bring in the funds, they bring in the resources, and they let them continue to do what works best in that industry, okay? Now, let's look at hypothetical outcomes here, okay? All right, we take what this means for CGC and we look at outcomes. You look at the resources, and this could possibly mean a second CGC facility. That would be amazing. That would be absolutely amazing because it's needed, in my humble opinion. All right, larger workforce. Again, resources, not a bad thing. More focus on company-wide training with the focus on strengthening the CGC grading standard. Which could mean less margin of error. I think we all can agree. These are all positive things. That can lead to better quality control. All right. What else can it lead to? Quicker turnaround times. Now, this is what I'm hopeful for. Okay. If CGC is getting all this funding and all these resources, they open up a second facility, you get a larger workforce in, right? I am hopeful for a dedicated workforce for specific departments. Let me repeat that. A dedicated workforce for specific departments. What do I mean by that? Well, for example, an in-house workforce versus a signing event workforce. So this is what that looks like. You basically are running two separate entities. You have a leadership management team and their crew and their team of, whether it's graders or point men, point women, whatever it may be. You have a signature series employment team, and that's all they do. That's all they do. That's all they do. Then you have an in-house grading team. So when you have blue label books that you're looking to submit to CGC, right? And you go on their website and you're submitting blue label books and you see turnaround time and all this stuff, it is specifically guided by the in-house blue label workforce. All right? Because the two things are separate. Your turnaround time or your quality control is not being hindered because they're pulling workforce to go work these signature events, or they're putting warehouse orders on delay because of signature events. This would be absolutely amazing. And to even break that down even further, I believe that there needs to be when you talk about in-house workforce, I believe that there needs to be a standard order workforce and a fast track workforce. That's right. I think there needs to be separate warehouses or coming out of the main warehouse. You separate them and you have what looks like a what do you call it? Oh my God, I always blank on this word, guys. Help me out. Ford created it. The line, the industry line. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna give a cookie to somebody who puts this in the comments. I do this, guys. I have a form of dyslexia where it allows me to forget words a lot. Assembly line X11. Yeah. I mean, so like the most simplest things that nerds being geeks. Thank you. Some type of assembly line where, once the books are finally getting received in the warehouse, we're seeing them, basically escalated to their point of proper workstation, right? You got the fast track assembly line and you got the standard order assembly line over here, and they go through their own line. So that way you don't have workforce coming off of the standard orders to go take care of the fast track, because they're like, oh, well, we're getting more money from the fast track orders. We need to get them out. We're taking workforce over here because we got to get these out. It doesn't matter if the people that just submitted regular orders are waiting, 10 months for their books, even though on the website it said like 6 months or something like that. These are things that I'm hoping can come from having more resources. All right. What else can be an outcome from this? Evolving the CGC physical product. That's right. I think CGC has done an amazing job over the years, evolving their physical product, evolving their cases and their labels, getting more creative with the labels, with the custom labels. I see this happening more and more over the next 5 years, regardless. There's so much within the grading industry and with the slab graded book that I think we haven't even touched upon yet. As technology continues to evolve at an exponential rate, who knows what slab books are going to look like in the next 5 years? It could be something crazy that we can't even fathom right now. So I think that is definitely a possibility. All right. So let's talk about some cons, because I'm sure there's some folks right now in the chat that are like, maybe you guys aren't feeling happy about this acquisition, and you are concerned. Let me get some water. We're going to go into cons. Six cookies to the chat. Thank you all. I appreciate it. I am a very good cook. I pride myself on my cooking abilities, but I don't bake very well. So if I ever get you guys cookies, I might just have to buy you all some Oreos or something. All right. Cons. All right. The first con I put down, which really does have a flip side, and we're going to talk about that. Higher cost. We already saw CGC raise their price. We're going to talk about that in a little bit here. But higher costs, look, this is just the nature of the beast when it comes to businesses. When you invest more money into a service or a product, prices usually increase. That's just the way it is. What's the flip side of this? You pay for what you get. Essentially, you pay for a higher quality of service and product. So, look, you got inflation to look at as well, and you got supply and demand. Now, keep in mind that, supply and demand doesn't only work with books on the secondary market or whatnot, right? Like, we talk about as a collectible, comic books, there's supply and demand. If demand increases and goes above supply, the price is going to go up. You can argue it's the same thing for CGC and the grading service and product that they provide. The more that is in demand, the more that they know that we could probably raise our prices. Now, you don't, in my humble opinion, a good business model and business culture that's offering a service and a product, you don't want to run your culture like that, where, we can raise our prices, so we are. You don't want to do that. You have to be transparent, and it has to be reasonable in what you do. Now, two things that can happen from this, where you're getting more money and more assets put in, which could drive the costs up. Labor costs can go up. You got new facilities that could go up if we get better cases, higher quality cases, better training costs money. New workforce costs money. That's going to raise costs up, right? And overhead. But you know what can drop costs as well? Economies of scale. What does economies of scale mean? It means per unit. If you are able to produce, it's just like the assembly line. It's what Ford realized when he invented the assembly line. Back around the turn of the century and in the early 1900s, they were producing like one car a week or something like that, right? And the price of the car was extremely expensive. But when he realized that he can actually cut down the labor force, cut down training costs, and create this thing called the assembly line, and he started pumping out 8 cars a day, then he was able to pay his workers more and charge less for his vehicles. And then more of the average American and the average workers could start affording cars. The same thing goes with the economies of scale. So, CGC could take a piece out of the assembly line playbook, Ford's playbook, and realize that, look, if we're able to, if right now we can grade 100 books an hour, and we can put resources into a second facility, we can put resources into better training to better our quality control, and now we can pump out 200 books or maybe even 1,000 books per hour, right, to help support the demand that's on the market. Your economies of scale, though, is allowing that price per unit to decrease. So it's actually costing you less per unit, and that can alleviate price increases on the actual product and service that you're paying for. All right, so this may be a reason why CGC increased their prices when they did, although I still think it's bad timing. You gotta understand that most likely this was when they did this a few months back and they raised their prices and they changed all these things. I'm going to speak with confidence. I don't know for a fact. I'm going to speak with confidence that they knew this merger was most likely going to happen. All right. And it was a business play to make those changes when they did. All right. And now maybe with those price increases, maybe Blackstone could come in and say, okay, we're going to keep it as is and watch it work. And then we're going to do what I originally expected CGC to do. We are actually going to start watching quality control get better, turnaround times get better, and the product just overall get better and evolve. And then what's that going to do to consumer perception? It's going to allow consumer perception to start saying, hey, you know what? CGC is the leader in the industry. That's right. I'm not going anywhere else. I'm sticking with CGC, and this is why. And then what happens then? Then demand continues to increase. You're booming. And maybe, a couple years down the line, you think about raising your prices again. Who knows? But at that point, prices hit what's called market equilibrium, where we at that point will be willing to pay that higher cost. You never know. All right, we're gonna wrap up here before I put in my final statement and get to some questions. Another con, shifting company focus. All right, and what do I mean by this? Well, hypothetically, if putting more resources into areas such as signature signings continue to equate to higher quarterly earnings, standard CGC services may become secondary. So what do I mean by that? If Blackstone comes in and says, we invest in companies, we acquire companies because we know that there is a wide rising ceiling of equity to be had, of profits to be gained. And we want you to run your business in whatever way is going to maximize those gains. If CGC sits down and says, well, we can really start pumping it. We can take all these resources that we're getting from Blackstone and we can put it into our signature series, in our signing events. And the blue label system, the blue label product is going to become a small percentage of their business. You know what can happen then? We could start seeing 250 to 300 day turnaround times for blue label books. And we could start seeing double or triple the amount of signature series signings and events and whatnot, because they feel that, based on like a quarterly basis, they're going to bring in more revenue that way. That's one possibility. That's a con. But let me tell you something right now. I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening personally. Because guess what? Although the signature series is booming, you know what else is booming? The graded market in general, especially the 9.8. There is still too much money to have. When a 9.6 goes for 10K and a 9.8 goes for 2K of a blue label, and that 9.6 still goes for a premium above a possible 9.6 raw, There's still too much money to be had in the standard certified graded CGC book. There's no way. I see these resources coming in, and I see the ability for them to now do a balancing act where they can put the proper resources to the standard blue label service and the signature series yellow label services, signings, and events. I do. All right, what's another con? Nothing changes. Nothing changes. It's quite possible, right? Costs increase, which we've seen. Turnaround times remain the same or increase. Quality control is still an issue, but revenues continue to increase regardless. Why? Because at the end of the day, acquisition or no acquisition, people see CGC as they see CGC, and they don't care. Even those that complain, they're going to complain, but they're going to keep giving CGC their money. And guess what? Nothing changes. That's quite a possibility. That's quite a possibility. All right. I don't think that's going to happen either, though. I'm gonna give my my conclusion here. I'm looking at your guys' comments. Just a dad. What's going on? Connecting comics. BBB. Oh man, yeah, BBB. YouTube's weird. YouTube is weird. The ninth wonder in the house. The ninth wonder says those resources aren't going to comic books. Oh shoot, what it said. Comic books. CGC does more than just comics, and they want to get into NFTs and other things. Nothing is changing with comics. Okay, well, they are going to comics, but to your point, Ninth Wonder, they're not just going to comics. They're going to everything under the CCG umbrella. And you're right. Comic books most likely are not the top priority. But I wouldn't say, and again, I'm always careful with wording, right? Those resources are going to go to comic books to some extent. What extent that is, we don't know. And we don't know if it's going to make any real dent, right? Because there are things like NFTs and even the card market and coin market, every collectible market that falls under the CCG umbrella, it's not just comic books, right? So it's a good question to be brought up. But here's the thing. This is one thing I want people to understand. Okay? Because this is the biggest thing that I saw from people that probably don't even really understand what they're talking about. First off, the crazy crap that I've seen is, oh, Blackstone is nothing but a hedge fund. They're going to come in, bring in their money, and there's this conspiracy theory already that somehow, some way, they're like all they're doing. They are bringing in their own comic books to get graded or something, thinking that this acquisition is going to do something to the value of the graded comic. Guys, they're not. Blackstone didn't buy comic books. They bought the business. Okay? So essentially, this does nothing for the value of the CGC comic book on the secondary market. It does nothing on the surface for that. Nothing at all. It brings value. It brings value into the equity of the business itself. And the business doesn't own comic books. The business grades comic books as a service and gives it back to its customers. So throw that out the door. This isn't a secret ploy to where Jay-Z and Blackstone are secretly getting 9.8 graded books out of it or getting to jump in line on the next signature series. That is just so amateur and so ignorant to even think, okay? Ninth Wonder says, maybe we get turnaround times down by a month, and that's a huge victory. Hey? So get that out of your guys' head. Now, here's the thing, too, about Blackstone. Okay, I studied business. I don't know everything. but I'm confident in what I talk about. And I'm honest in my perspective, everyone. Blackstone is not some evil entity that is out to like destroy a company. A company worth over $600 billion in assets is not going to buy and acquire the majority shares of another successful company just to run it into the ground. Okay? They're not. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't happen, because you have dumb, I don't want to say dumb, but business people that get into these positions of businesses and they run companies into the ground. I mean, I don't want to make this political. I don't want to make this political at all. But Donald Trump inherited his wealth. And so he wasn't like he wasn't a Zuckerberg or a Amazon Bezos. And I'm not saying I like those people at all. I think Bezos is a freaking asshole, if I can say that live and not get shut down. I know YouTube is owned by Google, so I better not say it now. Anyways, they were smart businessmen, though. Steve Jobs, smart businessman, started in his garage. Bill Gates started in his garage. Donald Trump, as a businessman, not politics, inherited his wealth, his billions, and started companies based on inheritance. And a lot of them he had to file bankruptcy for, and a lot of them weren't a success. There was some sketchy stuff going on. So again, I'm not making this political at all. I'm just showing an example. Sometimes, and I'm not even saying that Donald Trump is this horrible businessman. I'm just saying he's got money and he's like, oh, let me invest in that. Let me buy. And he's not always making a smart decision because he's failed multiple times, right? So that happens. But Blackstone has a track record for acquiring businesses and allowing their growth to be successful long term. Now, let's look at, I know a lot of people are talking about, they're buying out the housing market and putting people out of their homes and jacking up it's basically monopolizing, gentrification of the housing market and so forth. Look, we can have a socio-economic discussion on gentrification in the housing market right now. And I would agree that's a problem, but it's not Blackstone's fault. Blackstone, first off, and Blackstone isn't buying houses. Blackstone bought a company, one of the leading companies that has thousands of properties nationwide in the US. Because what does Blackstone do? They look at successful companies, no matter what industry they're in, and they say, well, if I give you X amount of resources and buy, and acquire you guys, I'm going to allow you guys to keep doing what you're doing. But with our resources, you're going to be able to maximize your profits tenfold. So Blackstone isn't an evil entity doing this. It's just that they are simply a business. They're a business, plain and simple, right? And in a free market, a capitalistic free market, that's what you're going to get. And unless the consumers and I don't want to go down this road, but when it comes to real estate and the housing market, I do believe, and I'm not for heavy government regulation. I think regulation is good, but too much bureaucracy gets involved, it becomes a huge mess. Special interests get involved, and it becomes even worse than if it wasn't regulated. But I do believe real estate in the housing market needs further government regulation to stop this from happening, from what's going on in the renters market right now. I do. But again, Blackstone is a good business entity because they don't care the industry that they get in. They look at an industry, they see a successful entity that can maximize its growth with the proper resources. And Blackstone has those resources to make that happen. So again, overall, from a pure and simple business standpoint, that is a good thing. I do not believe Blackstone is going to run CGC in the ground. I do believe that Blackstone's acquisition of CGC is going to be overall positive for the success of CCG and the CGC umbrella in terms of their growth and their revenue over the next 5 to 10 years. But the question we have to ask ourselves, still, like Ninth Wonder was saying, does this equate to us as the consumer seeing the changes that we want to see? And on the surface, no, it does not. No, it does not. Because there's multiple ways that we know that a company like CGC can profit. There's multiple ways. But it's going to boil down to consumer perception and how we use our purchasing power. If we want this acquisition to work in favor of the consumer, which means quicker turnaround times, which means better quality control, and all the other things I talked about. And to Ninth Wonder's point, if we want it to mean that they're not just going to focus on NFTs and all these things, that there is a focus on comic books, it boils down to two things. It boils down to the health of the graded comic book on the secondary market. It does. But then it boils down to how we as consumers use our purchasing power. Do we keep blindly giving CGC our money? Because if we do, CGC leadership under Blackstone, when they do their quarterly analysis or their semi-annual analysis, and the CGC leadership sits down at the table with Blackstone executives, and they say, okay, CGC leadership or CCG, what do we know? What's going on with the CGC department? Are we maximizing revenue? What do we need to do to change it? And they say, well, guess what? Our revenue continued to increase. We got, because of economies of scale, price per unit's going down. Our overhead fixed costs are decreasing, and our gross profit is increasing, right? So let's take our assets and put it into more NFTs. Blackstone says, okay, CGC leadership team, you got it. Thanks for continuing to make us money. Right? That's what it boils down to. We can't expect Blackstone and CGC to just assume that they need to do what's right for the consumer. Any smart business would have that in their back pocket, and they would understand to some extent what running a good business culture and a business model looks like. But if the revenue stream continues to keep coming in, not only continues to keep coming in, but continues to increase without them making changes, it's the same thing that I've been saying for 2 years. Then they won't have to make any changes at all. So, at the end of the day, use your purchasing power wisely. Do you want to know? You want to know why Starbucks gets all their coffee fair trade right now? They actually, I don't know the name of it off the top of my head, but they actually have a company now that they own that is a middleman that works between the Starbucks corporate entity and all the farmers around the world that they work with to make sure that the farmers are in proper fair trade agreement and they are not getting screwed by a large corporate conglomerate. You want to know why they evolved? Because I used to work for Starbucks. 20 years ago, Starbucks had 2 farms that they worked with that were in fair trade agreement. Two out of dozens. Now, every single farm that they work with is under fair trade agreement laws. Why? Because the consumers demanded it. The consumers held Starbucks accountable and said, we are not going to buy your coffee unless you change the way that you handle business and the relationships that you have with your farmers. People don't understand our purchasing power. Our purchasing power is actually, if you want to, our purchasing power is more powerful than our voting power, believe it or not. And I'm not saying don't vote. Please do, and vote locally. Always think globally, vote locally. Even if you think that your two options that we have for president may not be very good options, get involved locally. Know who your mayor candidates are and your city councils and the measures and the props, your state assembly. But what's more powerful than our voting power is our purchasing power. Do you know what would happen? Do you know what would happen if just one day, say today, what's today? Friday. Say today, I rally, say I had like, there's 300, say I had 150 million people watching the show right now, right? And I said, guys, go fill your tanks up with gas right now. Do it today. Do it today. Or make sure that you don't need to go anywhere tomorrow and you don't need to get gas. Do you know what would happen if 150 to 200 million, I don't know how many adults are in this country. Do you know what would happen if we took one day off from pumping gas? Everyone in this country took one day off from pumping gas. Do you know what would happen? The oil industry would crash. It would fall flat on its face. One day. That's how powerful our purchasing power is. Vote with your wallets. Absolutely. So, that's what I have to say. Jamil, appreciate it. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Let me check some comments. We got to get ready for Combo Book Canada, just over 30 minutes, but I want to spend a few minutes reading some more of your guys' comments. If you have any comments on the issue or questions, now is your time. Nerds being geeks, I see people saying for them to open a second location on the West Coast. And they do that. People will say that the graders at one of these locations are inferior. Look, and you're right, nerds. People are always going to say something, but that doesn't matter. People are always going to say something, but you can't worry about what people are going to say. The Collector Estate 2020. Appreciate it. New on YouTube. All right, the Collector Estate 2020. Go check the Collector out, everyone. You just picked up 6,000 book collection. Oh, man. I'm still waiting to get my hands on a collection. Mojo. What's going on, Mojo? Ziggy. Will prices drop and turnaround times faster? Ziggy, I'm very hopeful that this can lead to faster turnaround times, especially if they open up another facility. I'm very hopeful for that. Will prices drop? No. My humble opinion, nope. Absolutely not. And I wouldn't be surprised if a year from now they're raising their prices again. Yeah, Mark, have the collectors ever been given info about CGC grading training? Nope. And you know what? That's I can't even get into that right now. For those that know, I'll say briefly, I'm all for transparency. I do believe there needs to be an industry-wide standard, and I do believe there needs to be a council, so to say, or an authority board. But yeah, that's a whole other conversation. Right, Twix versus left Twix. FOMO Industrial Complex. Well, Emmanuel, they do have the impetus to create standard, but they have to know that it's going to equate to more money. They know, they have to know it has to equate to more business and more profits. And if we keep blindly giving them our money, that's not going to happen. What are your feelings about EGS right now, though? My feelings about EGS right now, I just sent EGS a awesome book to get a custom label on it. I'm not going to tell you guys what it is. I want it to be a surprise. I just sent a book. I can't wait to see this. Ooh, I can't. It's a DC book. I will say that. That's my thoughts on EGS. I am rooting for EGS all the way. Look, I did my honest review on them, like I think almost a year ago now. You know, I don't look, I mean, I've always said this. No, they don't have the prettiest cases that CGC does. You know, I know the custom labels aren't for everybody. But you know, I like what they do and I know where they're going. I trust their grading. Remember, it's not just a physical product, it's a service, and this number means something. I trust their transparency and their consistency and their grading process. And I do trust that they're going to continue to keep growing, and I am rooting for them to get their custom cases sooner than later. That's my thoughts on EGS. My advice is this. If you haven't tried EGS, try it once. Just try it once. You know, take your time. You know, send something that you're going to really like. You know, they'll work with you on building a custom label if you want a custom label. So I highly recommend everyone just giving them a try once. Send a book or two out to them. Serge has run for office. I was planning. Okay, so I was actually planning on running for city council in 2020, but I didn't because after I graduated college in 2019, the job market hit me hard and I wasn't able to settle into a career, and then COVID hit. If that didn't happen, though, I would have ran for city council. What do I think of comic skins? I think comic skins are great. I think they're overpriced. And this is the funny thing. EGS uses comic skins, but they customize them and they secured the book that's custom to EGS, right? And everyone, not everyone, but there's people that always says, oh, EGS is just a comic skins label. It's crap. Or a comic skins. No, it's not just the comic skins. And here's the funny thing. You're paying like comic skins by themselves cost just as much as an EGS slab. Isn't that funny? I would never buy comic skins. I would just go get my book graded at EGS because I'm not just getting a case, I'm getting a certified grade, right? And how the book is sealed and protected and how the case is actually sealed as well. It's customized. Yep, X11. I hear ya. Yeah, Mark brings up something about CBCS. When CBCS was bought by Beckett, it was a bumpy road, okay? But they've evolved, and I still stand with the fact that CBCS is going to continue to evolve. But I think CGC, I don't think this acquisition is going to be too much of a bumpy road as that may have been, because simply because CGC they're already in a bumpy road right now, in my humble opinion. CGC is already going through a bumpy road right now, and I don't know if it could get much bumpier, to be quite honest. I'm gonna get my few EG. Oh, Ninth Wonder. Yes. Awesome, Ninth Wonder. Yes, indeed. Whew. All right, guys. I should probably head over to get ready for the cannon. Louis Logic says, I know we're related now. Dan, I know more about politics than I do comics. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, Dan. It's a burden, isn't it? Politics is always a burden, it seems. It's good to be involved, but at the same time, it's tough at times. Raw books are gems, says Vinny. because Vinny has a bunch of beautiful raw books. Noe, CGC knows that there is a high demand for their service and they take full advantage. But like you said, we have purchasing power. Absolutely. And I hope that this acquisition can balance that out. I really, really do. My Sunday school teacher lives next to Beckett. Nice. Reapers. All right, guys, let me make a final word here before we get out. Let me get a little more water. Woo, what a great discussion today, guys. Okay, here's the thing. Again, if you are not subscribed to Journals, Comics, and Pop Culture, please do so. All you need to do is click subscribe. I appreciate you guys showing up here each and every week for Friday Night Live and checking out the videos, dropping 7 days a week. Comic Book Canon, we are just 23 minutes away. We're going to have an awesome show. That link is below. Again, big shout out to all of my members. My YouTube members will be giving away my YouTube member prize at the end of the month. Again, it's only $1.99 a month. If you click the join button below, you can check out what kind of extra perks. I try to do a little giveaway. I've been doing it like at least every other month. I want to get that up to every month as soon as I get maybe a few more memberships in. And of course, to my Patreon members, we're going to have our contest at the end of July as well. If we hit 40 Patreon members, we'll be giving away this first cover and second full appearance of Abomination 8.0 CGC White Pages. Again, this was donated by a friend of the channel, Dan, who is in the chat right now. Big thank you, Dan. It's funny because this book was won from my first contest, and the person that won it like canceled their membership for Patreon and then bounced and never took it. I'm like, okay. So it's funny that right now this book has gotten so much hotter and now it's back on the market. If we don't hit 40, I'll be giving this book away, The Death of a Lecturer, along with a couple other books I'm going to throw into that. Patreon membership is only $3.99 a month. You can click that link below too to find out what kind of perks you get there. I appreciate all of your support each and every day, guys. I'm going to be out of town next Friday. I don't know if we're going to have a Friday Night Live show, but I will keep you guys posted. There will be a Comic Book Canon show. That's for sure. I just will be elsewhere. So thank you all for watching. I really hope to see each and every one of you over on the Canon. Peace.